So today I'm going to show you how I made this animation step by step all the way through. So basically what we have here is a fairly simple scene. We have this plane, displaced plane, which has this scatter system cover it, and those are the flower assets that I chose to work with. And I also have a gombo light for casting shadows that creating interesting shadows on top of the foliage, and I have a general fill light over here and environment light. And actually this scene, and also volume cube for this cool god rays effect that you can see over here. So yeah, and then I animated it, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So let's open up a new file, and we are starting off with a plane. Let's call it ground, and let's go into edit mode and subdivide it a bunch. And then I want it to be not a square but a rectangle. So simple and quick way that you can do it is just Shift D and duplicate it. Make sure you have the snapping on and also the auto merge vertices on, and just merge those together. What I want to do now is subdivide it again, because right now it's not enough subdivisions, not enough polygons here, so we need to subdivide it some more. So add modifier, subdivision surface, simple, and then let's see, turn on wireframe, turn off optimal display, and let's do 1, 2. All right, so 3 level of subdivisions. I think let's add one more. Yeah, this is pretty good, pretty dense. Turn off wireframe, and you can right now apply the subdiv. Now what I want to do is displace this surface, so add modifier, displace. Let's right now lower a bit the strength to somewhere around 0.5. Yeah, for now it's good. We will probably lower it more later, but let's see how it goes. So press on new, texture tab, and then choose wood, and then you get this cool but cool yet simple pattern. So what we're going to do is, first of all, let's go back to the modifier and press shift and drag until you get something you like. Something like this is good. Yeah, 0.16. and then okay, let's keep this for now. Let's go back to the texture tab and tweak this section a little bit. So choose in the pattern section, choose bend noise, and let's calm this effect down a bit. Turbulence, I don't want it to be that harsh, something like this. And the size pretty big, maybe turbulence Yeah, something like that. Okay, this is good. I think you can play around with it however you like, but for the sake of the tutorial I'm gonna leave it that way. And I'll also right click shade smooth, so you can get rid of all those shading issue here. So right click, shade smooth, great. Right now let's go back to the modifier and change a little bit the settings here. So coordinates, you want to what we're going to do is we're going to change this from local to object, and then we're going to create an empty plain X is empty. Let's place it right here, and we don't need it to be so big, so let's go down to these empty properties and make this 40 centimeters. Let's go to the displace modifier and choose the empty, and now when I move it, the mesh also changes. Cool. And direction Z, and also I want, in my case I made the my original mesh not diagonal lines but straight lines. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna press on the empty and just RZ, rotated 45-degree angle, so it is straight lines. Now we're gonna add another displace modifier so that we can get this randomness in the waves. Right now it's pretty, it's pretty solid, it's pretty straight, and we want to get another level of randomness. So add modifier, displace, and again we can direction Z, new texture, and then we choose clouds, and let's do something like this. Go back to the modifier and turning this down should do something like, yeah, this is cool, this is quite cool. The mesh doesn't need to be that detailed because we're gonna scatter on it later the grass, so we only need the general look of the waves. So remember to, again, coordinates from local to objects, pick the empty, and now it's really cool. When I move it, the whole mesh is deforming and changing randomly because this is actually a procedural process. So yeah. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna, before I go into the stage of the scattering and the grass and the flowers, I want to animate this scene. So let's open up another window here and change it to timeline. Let's close that one and press N and close that one as well, and let's define it 150 frames because we are doing it at 30 frames per second. Now choose the empty, and then on frame 1 press I and choose location, then go to frame 75, take your empty GZ to something like this and press I again, location, and then frame 150. Take your empty again down and press I again and location. And now what we have, if you press shift and left arrow and you go all the way to frame 1, you press space, you have this, and then go back and make sure that your animation type is defined as Bezier and not linear, because you want the start to be smooth and the finish also to be the movement to be very smooth as well. So hover your mouse above this section over here, above this timeline section, press T and then choose Bezier. And you can also go to the edit preferences, animation, and then default interpolation. You can choose Bezier, or if you will, you can choose linear as well if you want. By default, every project, the animation will be Bezier or linear, but anyhow you can change it by pressing T and choose this here. So let's go to the animation tab real quick. All we need is the Z location. We don't need the X and Y, so we can just delete them. And then we have this right here. 1, 2. Great. So what we're going to do, like that. So you can control this thing over here by pressing Control and click the middle button in your mouse. I like to press Home on the keyboard, and then we get this very large and nice looking graph. And if you press A to choose all these dots, keyframe dots right here, what you want to do is like this. You want that your movement will be at first slow and then very fast and then slow again towards the middle, and also and again very fast and then slow. Like if I show you the animation, so as you can see, slow and then very fast, slow and very fast again. So yeah, you want to choose all the keyframe control points on the graph by pressing A, and then press if you press scale right now, it's just gonna scale this whole graph overall. So what you want to do is you want to go here to the pivot point and choose individual centers, and then when you press S to scale, you're scaling each and every point individually. So we want to scale this up something like this, and let's run the animation. Let's run the animation and see what we are at. So let's start from the beginning. Yeah, looking pretty nice. Now let's go back to the layout tab, and we can narrow it down a bit and press N. And I'm working in order to scatter things on these surface or onto any surface. I'm using, you can use geometry node of course, but I'm using geoscatter. I love this add-on very much. So geoscatter. So in terms of scattering, I use with this add-on. I don't know about geometry nodes. You can obviously do it in geometry nodes, but my method is geoscatter. So whoever works with it, very good. And let's go. So choose the emitter plane. And then let's choose some grass assets. Open up the asset browser. Also, you can use, of course, any grass asset you want. I'm working with Bagapie. I'm working with a lot of stuff, but for this project, I chose some Bagapie grass assets. So let's choose, for example, one. Again, we want to do this as natural as possible and as random as possible. So the foliage grass also needs to be random and natural and convincing. So 1, 2. I mean 1, 2. Let's choose also, you know what, that one. I don't know, that one over here. So 4 assets, and then let's scatter from browser selection, scatter assets. Great. Let's change this to grass. I like to change the color. You definitely don't need to do it, but I like doing it for the sake of organization. Distribution. So this is very important. Distribution method has to be not random but deform stable, because this is an animation, and when this plane is moving, if you choose random, and let's do this, when you run the animation, you see the assets is just disappearing and reappearing randomly. So we want to choose deform stable, and then you see that the assets don't disappear, they just go up and down. And I know it's looking weird right now, but we're gonna fix it in a minute. Let's close this. Okay, so scale, let's turn on default scale and random scale, because we want to random things as much as possible. Default scale, let's take it down a notch, something like this maybe. Random scale, let's leave it as it is. Rotation, yeah, rotation. Align normals, so each and every grass asset will be aligned along the normal of the faces. And of course, random rotation. We don't want tilt, it's not necessary at all. And let's see. So I'm noticing that this asset is way too big, so we're gonna just delete it from the instances list. I think no, yeah, great. So now we are left only with these assets right here. Let's play around with scale again. I mean, not with scale, sorry, with distribution density. All right, let's cover this whole thing up. And you know what, let's actually play with the scale, and then 1, 2, yeah. Okay, this is good. Now the viewport is starting to be a little laggy because the amount of polygons that we are dealing with. So what we can do is a couple of things, but first of all, let's go down to the display tab, not display, sorry, visibility tab. Go to camera optimization, turn this on. So right now we don't have camera, so let's add a camera, Shift A, and a camera, and let's define our angle. Let's see, let's go to the view tab and click on camera to view. So now wherever I move my camera, this is the camera location. So let's do something like this, okay, something like this I think is, yeah, pretty good. What we can do is go to the camera settings and define it, the focal length, let's do 53. Okay, 53 is great. Okay, this is great. Let's go back to camera to view and check this off. And now go back to geoscatter, camera optimization. Only what the camera sees also is displayed in the viewport. Another thing that we can do is turn on enable occlusion cooling. So what is it going to do? It's whenever this area that the camera cannot see, no asset will be scattered on. So you see, right now in the camera viewport we don't see any difference at all, but we are actually saving memory. So this is the difference. Okay, so let's see how this is looking in render mode. Let's do this. Okay, this is looking pretty nice, but we have holes here. We can see the actual plane. So I'm not going to add another grass asset or another increase the amount of density, but what I'm going to do is apply a texture here, so the texture will blend in with the grass. And yeah, also I think I'm gonna have to lower the intensity of the displacement, so let me just do that real quick. The intensity of the wood texture, let's do it something like this. Okay, 0.09 is working pretty well for me. Another thing that I like to do very much is go to the camera, into the camera settings, and under viewport display I like to take this up, so the background will be nearly black, so that I can focus more on the viewport of the camera. Now let's apply some texture to this to our ground. Again, open up the asset browser, yeah, and go to you can choose obviously any type of material that you want. I'm gonna choose that one over here, drag and drop, and let's open up shader editor, click on the plane, and let's isolate it very quick. Go to material preview mode, and let's fix some issues here. So right now the way the texture is mapped is a little bit stretchy, so let's go to this object, and yeah, now you see the difference, stretched and now mapped correctly. Let's just take the scale up, something like this. Yeah, I know that we have some artifacts, some mapping issues right here, but it doesn't really matter because this all we cover with grass, obviously. Okay, so now that is out of the way, let's see how we're doing. Okay, this is cool. I think we need to take the grass and relax it a little bit. So let's take, where is the scale? Yeah, default scale, Let's do something like, yeah, something like this, and take this density to something like 6,000, maybe 7,000, 7,000, maybe. Don't be afraid to go up in numbers. I know it depends on your computer, but in my case it's okay. Now this is enough, but I'm noticing that on the edges we still can see some holes. So what we can do is go back down to the camera optimization, and in the FOV boost, take the X and then to the sides and Y also. Okay, now the edges of the frame is all covered up, so this is good. Let's save and check one more time the render viewport. Okay, nice. Yeah, we're getting there. So what I like to do at this point, before I carry on and continuing showing you the flower assets and the actual animation of the growing flowers, I like playing adjusting the light. So obviously now the light is very distributed very evenly, and we don't see much shadows and interesting things and forms, because this is almost looking a flat surface. So we need to see the waves. So let's deal with that. So let's close this tab by pressing N. I like to choose just sky texture. So let's see how that looks. Okay. Right off the back, this is looking very nice. We're starting to see the waves on the ground. Sun size to be 1 or maybe even 1.5. So the shadow will be very not very, but a little bit soft shadows. And also we can play with sun elevation a little bit, and when this not so up in the sky and bright, let's see something like this. And sun rotation, let's see what is flattering to our scene. Maybe, this is, this is very good. This is enough. I think maybe you can take the strength down like 0.8 or 0.7. Okay, so for the lighting, actually this is it. Okay, so we need some flower assets. Oh, before that we want to minimize memory usage, so this is still a lot of grass. So what we can do after we set up the whole grass rotation, alignment and scale, we can go to visibility, and we can do some things like reduce density. Yeah, this is good. And also we can go to display tab and just display the grass as some kind of proxy like this, and check this box here, and yep, now the viewport is moving very smoothly. And now let's go on to the flower assets. So I have here a collection of flowers. Let's turn this on. I have a collection of flowers that I chose beforehand. So this is my assets. Let's select those first three flowers, and let's scatter them onto the surface. So viewport selection, scatter objects. And again, we need to play around again in the rotation, scale, visibility. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be back in a minute. Okay, now we have two sets of flower assets scattered onto this plane. We have the first group looking like this, and the second group looking like this. So how to animate this? So let's start with the first group, and again, let's open up this timeline tab right here, and we want to play around with the shrink option. So the flowers will, shrink down and then grow up at certain keyframe. So we have here, let's close all these confusing tabs, and actually the shrink option is in the scale tab. Scroll down and you can see shrink over here, and as soon as I'm clicking on the shrink, the flowers disappear, not disappearing, but become very small. They shrink actually. So what we want to see actually is basically nothing. So on frame 1 we don't see 0.1, we want to see 0. So we don't have any flowers at all at frame 1. So right now let's just hover our mouse on one of those three axes, X, Y, or Z, and just press I, and then this whole section becomes yellow. And on frame 1 we have a keyframe that says that on frame 1 all the flowers are fully shrinked. And let's go towards the middle of the animation. I want the flowers to fully grow, so let's go to frame 75 and click and drag and write down 1, enter, and press I. So what we have is this. Now this is good and all, but you notice how the flowers is growing very slowly. You see, very slowly and gradually they're growing to their full scale. So we don't want that. We want them to grow really fast, like start slow but then really fast to be fully grown. So let's go back to the animation tab and press on the plane, press on home, so we can see the whole graph covering this whole section over here. Okay, so now what we need to do is to, let's focus our viewport. So we want to, towards this time on the timeline, we want the flowers to grow very fast. So what we need to do is we want that the graph will also obviously be bezier, not linear, because we want this smooth movement of the flowers as usual. But we want to scale again each and every control point on the graph to be like this. So this section of the graph won't be so diagonal, because if it's diagonal then the animation will be slower. We want it to be not straight vertically but almost. So let's, again, don't forget to choose individual centers and press S, and then those control points individually scaling up. And let's see, yeah, let's stop right here and press space to see the animation. Yeah, you see how the flowers growing very fast. We can you know, settle the effect a little more, and let's check right now. Let's see this one more time. Yeah, it's nice. One thing that I failed to mention, actually I forgot. Let's go back to the layout and let's go again to the distribution tab of the flowers, and the method, as you can remember, the distribution method needs to be not random but deform stable, because right now the flowers are just, you know, it is growing as we want, but it's looking very, you know, a little bit weird because they're just growing and don't move as much. So if we define it as deform stable, let's see, we need to add to the density, so let's do like this. Yeah, great. So now you see how that looks, much more natural. We are in the middle of the animation, the flowers are fully grown. Now we want them to again shrink down to their zero growth again towards the end of the animation. So right now they are at value of 1. So let's go back to the end of the animation and click and drag 0, press I. Let's go again to the animation tab. Now let's see how that looks. The flowers are growing fast and smooth, and then shrinking down to 0 value. But again, they're shrinking down very slowly and gradually, so we want them to shrink down very quickly. So again, what we're going to do is that one and that one, scale those. Okay, now let's see. Okay, right, this is good. Now we're finished with the first group of flowers. Okay, let's go to the second group of flowers. Turn off the first one, turn on the second one, and now towards the whole animation, we don't want to see the second group of the flowers. We want to see them only towards the end of the animation. So let's go to the shrink tab and click and drag to make it 0 at frame 1, and press again, hover your mouse over here, press I, and at frame 150 we want again click and drag and press 1 and click I. But what is going to happen here is that the second group of the flowers are just going to grow up very gradually and very smoothly until the end of the animation, where they are fully grown and developed. But we want them to grow like very smoothly but very quickly, like in the previous group of flowers. So let's go back to the animation. So here we can see that we have the two flower groups, flower 1 on the X, Y, and Z axis, and flower 2 also X, Y, and Z axis. So we want to choose only the group, the second group of the flowers. We can, so we don't get confused with the second graphs in the background, we can turn all the axes, turn them off, hide them for now, and focus on only those 3 axes of the second group of the flowers. So this is the start of the animation, and this is the end of the animation. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry, I encountered some technical difficulties with the animation. So yeah, what we have is the second group of the flowers turned on, and this is the graph for it. Let's press home, and you can see that this keyframe here is when the flowers are starting to grow. Right here you can see the flowers starting to grow, and that keyframe right here is when they are fully grown, they're finished growing. And those two keyframes are very close to each other because we want the growing to be very fast. And I moved the last frame from frame 150 to frame 118, because if this will be here, so the gap will be very wide, and the flowers will grow very slowly. So I get those two keyframes very close to each other to get this effect. Okay, and again, let's make sure that deform stable is turned on, and let's see how this whole thing is looking. So the viewport is quite slow, but as you can see, the growing and shrinking of both of the flowers groups are on point. Great, so this is for the animation, which is the main part actually. Now to finish this whole thing off, we just need to tweak some settings in the render settings. So for cycles is the renderer. I'm using GPU. You can use whatever you like, whatever your computer is capable of. And render. So of course this depends on your settings, your PC settings, but I chose to do something not for 4096, but you can go with, you know, I mean, even 256, and let's do it 0.03 even. And what else? Okay, the rest is great. Color management, I love those settings, filmic and very high contrast, and of course 30 frames per second, 150 frames, and choose the path where you want the frames to be stored, and then file format. Usually for animations I choose OpenEXR. So after the fact I can save my video through the video editor in Blender, like this one, video editing. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the video on how to do this animation, and I hope I made myself relatively clear on how to do it. And yeah, that's it. Good luck.